My name is Remco Coerman. Welcome by another episode of the Coerman class. Every year people say the same thing. Everything is getting more expensive. But what they're really describing is something bigger than prices. It's inflation. The quiet force that changes the value of your money, your lifestyle and your future without asking for permission, because it just happens. The truth is, inflation doesn't live in economic textbooks. It lives in your shopping basket, your electricity bill and your bank account. So today we're going to talk about inflation on a personal level. What it really means for you, where it shows up and what you can do about it. No politics, no panic, just clarity. So let's start simple. Inflation means that prices rise over time and that the purchasing power of your money goes down. So if something cost 100 euros last year and 110 this year, that's a 10% inflation. You now need 10% more money to buy the same thing. On paper, inflation sounds harmless, just numbers. But in real life, it quietly erodes your savings, your salary and your sense of stability. Economists call it the invisible tax because it reduces what your money can buy without touching your bank. You don't lose euros, your euros just lose value. And here's an interesting part. Moderate inflation isn't always bad. Economies actually need a little inflation to stay healthy. It encourages spending, investment and growth. But when it goes too high, it squeezes everyone. Prices go up, wages lag behind and life feels harder, even if you're earning more. And that's what's happening in the world at the moment. Inflation isn't abstract, it's visible in daily life. Let's take a few examples. The supermarket. You walk in, you buy the same groceries you always do, but the bill is 20 euros higher than last year. Nothing looks different, you bought the same items, yet your total jumps. That's inflation in motion. You actually realize what's going on. Look at housing. If the rent rises, the mortgage rates increase, home prices climb. Suddenly, what was affordable 2 years ago feels out of reach now. And the last example, savings. Say that you have a 10,000 euros sitting in your account. Prices rise by 7% this year. That means that your 10,000 euros now has the buying power of 9,300. But you didn't spend anything, you just lost value quietly. But why is this happening? Inflation doesn't come from a source, it's a mix of many factors that overlap. Let's look at the four main ones, in simple terms. Created by demand pool inflation. Too many people want the same limited goods. When demand rises faster than suddenly, prices climb. During the lockdown, a few years ago, people started renovating homes. Furniture, wood, paint, all suddenly in big demand. Prices soared. There's also another term, cost push inflation. When it costs more to produce or transport products, companies raise prices. Think about rising fuel prices. When diesel costs more, delivery costs more. That affects everything you buy, from bread to electronics. But there's also monetary inflation, when governments or central banks increase the money supply. And that's what's happening at the moment. More euros in circulation means each euro is worth slightly less. The government keeps printing. It's like printing more tickets for the same concert. Suddenly, a ticket means less. And there's also global disruption. Think of wars, pandemics, natural disasters, all reduce production and trade. Inflation, in short, is a reflection of how the system reacts to stress, whether that's demand, cost or policy. But it's interesting to see how inflation affects you personally. That's actually the hardest part of inflation, is that it doesn't affect everyone equally. For some, inflation means a tighter budget. For others, it means lower savings returns. Let me break that down for you. If you're an employee, inflation eats away your salary. Your pay might stay the same, but your expenses rise. If you're a saver, your cash loses value over time. That's why people say saving money is losing money, especially during inflationary periods, because the inflation is higher than the interest rate you get as compensation. If you're in debt, inflation can actually help you. You pay back loans with money that's worth less than when you borrowed it. If you own assets like property, stocks or commodities, inflation might increase their nominal value. But it doesn't always mean real growth. Inflation changes the balance of advantage. It rewards debt holders, punishes savers and challenges workers. It's actually the other way around. It's a totally different world. And that's why understanding inflation matters. Because you can't escape it, but you can adapt to it. So what can you actually do on a personal level? You can't control central banks, oil prices or global trade routes, but you can control your response to it. I'll give you 5 ways how people can adapt during inflation. It starts with increased awareness. Track your spending. See which areas have growth the most. Awareness changes habits. Prioritize essentials. Inflation often reveals what's truly necessary. Focus on what adds long-term value. Another one, avoid idle cash. Savings account rarely outplays inflation. Consider investments or tools that preserve purchasing power, even conservative ones like index funds, inflation-linked bonds. Improve earning power. Skills and education are the best inflation hedge. The more valuable your expertise, the less dependent you are on fixed wages. And you also have to think about long term. Inflation makes people reactive. Panic buying, panic selling, or saving randomly, but historically, inflation cycles pass. Strategic patience pays off. Inflation isn't a permanent chaos, it's only temporary. It's part of an economic life, like seasons. You just need the right clothing for the weather. So you need to prepare yourself by changing the way you think and the way you look at it. So let's rethink. What was your first memory of prices going up? Do you remember the first time something suddenly was more expensive? Or at least it felt suddenly more expensive? Those memories shape how you view money today. For some of you, inflation triggers fear. I'll lose what I have. For others, it triggers creativity. How do I use this to grow? How do I use this to my advantage? Neither reaction is wrong, but awareness makes the difference. The question isn't if inflation happens, it always does to some degree. The question is, how do you plan your life knowing your money will lose value every year? So what did you learn from this video? Inflation means your money buys less over time. It's not personal, but its impact is personal. It's visible in food, rent, savings, and confidence. It tests behavior more than income. And understanding inflation helps you make smarter choices, not just to protect your money, but to understand the system around it. So it gives you a certain insight. In the next episode, we'll see how businesses view inflation differently. And they do that sometimes even turning into profit. Thanks for watching. My name is Remco Coerman, and this is the Coerman Class, Finance and Business School, sponsored by Epic Edges.